Maritime Matters is brought to you live by Bahamas Maritime Connection.
What is maritime?
Maritime, simply put, relates to navigation or commerce on the high seas.
Some say money makes the world go round. I say ships move the money that make the world move.
Who navigates those large international ships?
How often are international ships required to be surveyed and inspected?
Maritime also protects our seas and borders by way of our local Bahamas Defense
It is
Force.
very sad to say that out of 1,500 plus ships that are registered under the Bahamian flag, only a very small amount of Bahamians are employed.
Maritime Matters.
And pleasant good evening to you, our valued listening audience. Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to Maritime Matters. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our lovely producer for tonight is Mr. Sensational himself, Craig Gibson. We're coming to you live via Love 97 Studios, right here in Nassau. This is Tuesday, the first day of July, 2025. And if it's a Tuesday, you know the deal. It's Maritime Tech Matters. We encourage that if you're driving and tuned in with us, please do so cautiously and ensure to take your time in getting wherever it is you are trying to get safely. As the saying goes, drive to arrive alive. Our sponsors for tonight's show, it hasn't changed. One-on-One Pharmacy. And of course, in Freeport, they are known as Island Care Pharmacy. Second sponsor would be Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited. I say good night to my good old Auntie May up there in Freeport, 92 years so far, and go and show them. Boy, Auntie May tell me she having problems with her legs, her knees, and ankles and everything, trying to cause her car walk so readily. She got a little walking now, and she's still moving through like Boozhoo. But, you know, you got to pray for strong, good health for Auntie May to continue. You know, she got another 10 or 20 years to go. And you know she could pass 100. I didn't tell her that. Hey, you could pass 100 with ease. And then I coming right behind you, later on down. So I say good night to you, Auntie May, and your lovely 4 daughters who are keeping you safe, sound, secure, and happy. You're listening to Maritime Matters, and on this show, we talk maritime. Tonight, we engage various recent maritime hot topics. The big one of boating entry fees for visiting mariners. Additionally, we wish to touch on the impending energy reform for our country. So, those are the hot topics we sought to engage. And we start with what? Revised boating fees for visiting vessels. If you want in on this discussion, you can hit us up early. Of course, our numbers don't change. The number to call would be 326-8255. Again, that's 326-8255. And we're going to talk about the revised boating fees for visiting vessels. Recently, we amended or revised the Customs Management Act 2025. And that's a piece of legislation. I think that's the regulations of that act. But that's a piece of legislation that speaks to what we're going to charge you if you're coming in by boat to visit our country. What are we going to charge you in terms of you coming in on your own boat? It's really for pleasure boats. We already talk about the charter boats charges, right? We know that we could charge them 14% of the cost of every single charter they engage. That's what we're supposed to charge them. And once you do that, we got them covered. But in addition to that, they still get paid these fees when they come to clear. So the fees that the revised customs management regulations require, you know, they always had a cruising permit. Once you come to clear in the Bahamas, immigration officer comes on board and the custom officer deals with the cruising permit. Sometimes the same officer do everything, right? Immigration or custom. They know what to do. They know how to do it. And you get what you call a cruising permit. And that cruising permit permits you or allows you or authorizes you to travel throughout the Bahamas on your platform, your vessel. That cruising permit used to be good for 3 months at a time. But now the revision is extending that from 3 months to a year, 12 months, right? And with that cruising permit in the past, you used to have the right to fish up to certain pounds per day per person on board the vessel. But now we split that up. You're no longer going to fish on that. You could make up your mind if you want to fish, but that's going to cost you a couple dollars extra. Yes. Call. Maritime Matters caller. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Captain Ben.
That is me, my friend. How are you?
I am fairly partly cloudy, but I'm giving God thanks and praise because I'm way to go.
Partly cloudy is good. Just don't be overcast.
No, I have a lot to give thanks for because I'm way to go. I'm not horizontal.
Not 6 feet down. You're 6 feet up. Yes. Go ahead, my brother. Let's
I
hear.
want to take you a little bit off topic, but it is not off course. It's something that you've been very passionate about.
Wonderful.
It has to do with a monument that is supposed to be mounted in Ragged Island on behalf of the fallen members of the
Flamingo. Right.
Okay. Us in Ragged Island are not satisfied with where it is being mounted. We don't even know what is being mounted as a replica, and we are not satisfied. We feel certainly that this is not just a Ragged Island matter. It is a matter of immense importance. It's a Bahamian matter. And it's a national matter, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the biggest maritime catastrophe in the history of our country.
And we feel as though what the statue that is mounted of Queen Victoria in Russell Square is a joke to what has happened with these mariners who I deem as the only hero. I don't care who finds fault with what I say, I deem them as the only heroes. Them and the survivors as the only heroes in this country. I don't care what nobody says.
But
That's my take on that.
Even if they're not the only heroes, they're the major heroes. There's no hero that you can put above them.
I have said what I have said. I'm the pilot. What I have written, I have written, and what I have said, I have said.
Yes, sir.
I am speaking on my behalf in that regard, but I'm speaking, I believe, on the behalf of most Ragged Islanders, and I believe also most Bahamians. This matter is bigger than Chester Cooper. It's bigger than who they have contracted to do it. And it should not, they're proposing to mount something. We don't know yet what it is. We don't even know what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
On the wholly innocent property in Ragged Island, on behalf of these singing of Flamingo.
Yeah, they if they put something, you gotta make it right. I agree with. I wasn't even aware that they were doing anything in Ragged Island. They haven't.
This is what I'm talking about, Captain Bain.
Right.
See, number one, this is something that should have been gazetted. This is something that should have been announced. This is something that should have been put out to public tender. This is something that should have been debated.
That's right.
All sorts of things should have happened.
I agree.
And none of this happened.
Wow. But
see, this is coming down to election time, and they're doing all sorts of things for election brownie points.
yes.
And you don't want this to happen where it's happening. We don't care who has the contract to do it.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to make sure that it's done right.
Right.
And that it is transparent the way it's going to happen.
Okay, well, I would very much love.
We feel a few of us met and we didn't meet in that little conclave to fully decide what is going to happen. We met to voice our opinion and to get things to go a little bit further with members of Ragged Island as well as the wider public being consulted with regards to what is going to happen. Number one, we feel as though if whatever is going to be mounted is not going to be mounted at the site where those guys made landfall, then we have a defense force base in Ragged Island, which has been there since the 1700s. It has not been the same way it is. But that gunpoint has been there as a defense point for the Bahamas since the 1700s.
For intruders, right.
And if that monument is not going to be mounted at the site where those guys landed, then it should be mounted at the Defense Force base. And not only that, we feel as though not only the fallen heroes should be represented there, but also the survivors.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. They should even have a replica of that ship, the Flamingo.
I have chosen your forum to bring this to the eyes of the public, knowing that you will expand upon it further, and I believe some other Ragged Islanders, once they know that I would have initiated this call, will call in and weigh in on it, because we adamantly oppose to where it's proposed to be erected, and we don't like the way how it came about. This is something, like I say, that should have been brought about as a part of national interest.
That is correct. So I am so happy that you letting me and the rest of the Bahamas, by way of this forum, know that they do have intention to do something. And I mean, it's sad to know that the Ragged Islanders were not confronted even in the initial thought process as to where would be the best. Because, I mean, you got to remember now, on that day, the Ragged Islanders were in fear for their life too, because when those MiGs start buzzing the island, you know, that put the Ragged Islanders in the picture of this entire incident. But you should know the best place. I mean, you who live on Ragged Island should know the best place to mount that replica. But I don't know what it is they're doing. Like you say, you probably don't have all the details. But I hope they're just throwing something there to say they do something.
That's exactly what is happening. It could only be a political ploy. Because I'll say this to you, the chief consular has knowledge of it, but he doesn't know exactly what is happening.
Or he knows that something is going to happen, but he don't have any details. They're not keeping him in the loop.
No details at all.
Wow.
None. Absolutely none.
Oh, yeah. That's
all he
terrible.
knows is that Leish Boyd would have given them permission to erect whatever is going to be erected on wholly innocent property. And Leish Boyd is out of order with that. I don't care what power he holds over the diocese.
Yeah.
He should have consulted with his parishioners as well, because the property that is going to be erected upon is where the home for any visiting priest should have been. That was see, is so much inefficiencies and inaccuracies that have been done regarding this.
Yeah.
Until it's pathetic. And we are completely appalled, alarmed, and angered.
I say to you that
what's happening in this regard.
Your quest is registered. I will want to be kept abreast on a weekly basis, if you can, as to what is unfolding. And we need the nation to know that, you know, if they're doing something and it's not being done, you know, in decency and in order, we need to know as it go on, as it unfolds, so that the government could be aware that we're watching them. And the decision has to be made by the government, because I'm sure it's our money that's going to pay for it.
Precisely. And you see, like I say, it's bigger than Chester Cooper. It's bigger than the PLP.
Yeah, man.
It's a national interest. It's bigger than the FNM. It's bigger than the... I don't care who it is. It is a national matter, and it should obtain that type of forum to decide what is going to happen.
I agree, my friend. Well, thank you so much for advising us on what you know about as far as this mounting of this thing is concerned. And please do feel free at any time to call in and keep us abreast. I hope it be on a weekly basis. You know, we do the show once a week. And I'd like to keep abreast of what's going on with that.
I hear you often.
Yes,
I hear
sir.
you very often. I have called in once or twice. I don't agree with a lot, some of the things that you say, and I notice you leave scatty out of your conversation a lot, and you big up Amos Roll. But I'm gonna give you this. You know, one time Shorty was asked on the base, for him and Amos Roll, who was the best captain?
Well,
You know what
Amos,
Shorty told him?
Amos Roll ain't no captain, man. We know that.
No, I want you to hear this though.
Yeah.
So you leave scatty out of your conversation. Scatty told them, put every boat that I run, and Shorty was with the police arm of the police force. He told them, put every boat that I run on dry dock beside every boat that they run. Look at the bottom and you'll determine who is the best.
I agree, but not only that, we have two people, not only Scotty, we have two people that were navigators for the Defense Force when it started. They came from the Police Marines, along with Scotty was also Bachelet LaFleur. And those two people, I personally learned how to do eyeball navigation. Nobody else going to teach me that, right? Because those were the two.
I am telling you that when it started, Finland decided that nobody was going to run his boat other than Ragged Island captains because they knew where every sunken reef was, every shifting bank, and there were 4 captains, and they were all from Ragged Island.
Well,
Captain Scotty,
yeah, his
Edwin
brother,
Monroe, his white brother, Jaden Monroe, Anton Lockhart, and Hezron Moxley.
Yeah, but Ragged Island are the navigators of the Bahamas. I mean, up until the time people like me reach, right?
That's okay. You know, you can take Salem out of the country, but you can't take the country out of Salem. So it's just as simple as that.
No, but
what was happened, and those guys didn't buy what they got. They got it through experience. I want to take
this up with you since you seem to think that I leave Scotty out, right? When I speak about Amos Roll, I am not speaking about the ability to captain a vessel. I'm speaking about leadership, right? And the type of leadership. And Scotty was a leader to some extent. I work with Scotty and I work with Amos, right? So I'm saying to you, when it comes to leadership and the way that your men respond to you as a leader, especially in times of crisis, Amos Roll would have outclassed anybody else. That's why I talk about him. He's the number one person I know from a leadership perspective from the Defense Force started who stands out. We had others, but Scotty would have been the best navigator. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but the same way you highlight Amos Roll's activities and whatnot, he should have been highlighting his, because he almost died on the Defense Force. And when I said that, I don't mean in sickness. He was there until he couldn't know better to do. He, from a young man on the Marine arm of the police force until he was up almost in his 80s before he retired from the Defense Force.
Yes, I agree with you.
Things like you leave out, and you know, to each his own. To each his own. But I listen to you often. Yeah, but you have people like Albert and Brister and James Wallace, and I can tell you, I wake around these people. But I know they were students of mine in high school in Ragged Island. Yeah, but the impact they had on the Defense Force. See, it's a lot of people you cannot talk about because you can't talk about everybody, right? But Scotty Monroe would have been one of those persons that contributed tremendously, and I wouldn't even try to take that away because I learned from him. Okay. But now you don't hear me talk about anybody other than Amos Roll. I do not want to keep you off topic, but I just thought that before you get into your topic and get into the meat of it, we talk about this flamingo. Put that on the table for you. I appreciate that, my friend. Understand what is happening there, and so that the country becomes aware of these political shenanigans that are happening, and we totally disagree with them. I agree with you, and I appreciate that so much. And when you come to Nassau, I sound again Nassau now. You need to call me up so we can talk about the Scotty Monroe stuff now. I am in Nassau. I am a resident of Nassau currently, but my heart is in Ragged Island. Okay. Well, I've always been and will always be. Well, you're a Ragged Island man, and I will meet my demise in Ragged. Under normal circumstances, after I would have become a centurion, though. Right. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for your contribution, my friend. And feel free at any time, because you know how I roll.
to call in and please keep us abreast of what you know about what's going on down there with that memorial statue or whatever they're trying to put up. Because I mean,
whatever it is.
You're the one who got to keep us
We don't
abreast.
have a proper name for it as yet, but we know that something is in the works.
Yes, sir. I thank you so much.
You are highly welcome, my brother.
And take care of yourself, buddy.
All right, you have a blessed one.
Appreciate it. Yes, that was a great call. We seldom every May we take time out to talk about the Flamingo incident and how impacting it was and how the country basically just turned its back on not only the incident and the men that were killed, but more interestingly, the men that still live, that went through the turmoil on board that ship. Some of them are currently sick and can hardly pay their bills. Some of them, the thing is, they never got anything for what that incident put them through. And we could talk about that forever, but you know, every April, every April we gear up, and every May we take the whole of May and we ain't gonna stop. So this government promised that they'll do something very significant for them. That was about 2 or 3 years ago. I was at the base when they did that, and the deputy prime minister said they're going to do something. But as far as I know, they haven't gotten the reparations. They haven't gotten one dime, not one red cent, as a result of going through what they went through on that incident and the repercussions they went through. Their body went through, their mind went through, and all the rest of it. But we're not gonna resurface that at this moment. But what we are going to do is we want to watch and see how cheap they're going to get or how impacting they're going to be when they actually erect what it is that they intend to erect. And I wish they'll tell people ahead of time what they intend to do so that people can have an opportunity to have some input to say, well, why y'all don't try this or why y'all don't try that, or wouldn't this be better, or whatever the case may be. Don't just throw something there and say we do something. We rather you not put anything there at all. Make sure what you put there is going to be something decent enough for us to appreciate. And that's it on that. Now let's get back to our revised boating fees for visiting vessels. And again, I thank that caller so much. Now, as we were saying, the cruising permit is for 12 months. It used to be for 3 months. Now it's going to be for 12 months. And in addition, the fishing permit, what used to be included in the cruising permit, is now going to be a separate item. And you're going to pay separately for that, because everybody who come to cruise the waters ain't necessarily want to fish. So I think that was a brilliant move, and that should have been like that from Jump Street, but it is what it is, and now we're getting to that. Also going to be included in this revised boating fees for visiting vessels is there going to be a head tax. Now, head tax for cruise ships is already in place. Head tax for visitors at the airport is already in place. I don't know if that same head tax is applied to every individual that visits the Bahamas, and I'm going to play like I know. Anybody who know, please call and let us know. 326-8255. But what I do know is they're saying that head tax is only going to be applied to persons once you reach 3 passengers. Anything more than 3 passengers, each person would have to pay this head tax. My thing is, what are you talking about? If you're talking about a pleasure boat don't carry passengers. When we refer to passengers, that means somebody's paying to be transported from wherever that vessel comes to the Bahamas. That's passenger. If they're on board that boat and they ain't paying to come, then they ain't no passenger. Right? So who does this passenger head tax refer to? We need some clarity on that. Maybe you got some. Again, 326-8255. Please call and let me know, because I see no indication how they differentiating what is a passenger. I know what a passenger is under the SOLAS regulations, and I know what a passenger is basically on a vessel. That's even mail boats and all them. When they carry a passenger, that's somebody who's paying to be transported. Now, if these people coming on these pleasure boats and ain't nobody paying to be transported, then I can, even if they got 10, 12, 20 of them, I don't even know if it's a limit. I know it's a limit in the commercial field. The limit is anytime you have more than 12 passengers that are paying, your vessel becomes what they call a passenger vessel, and you got to meet more stringent regulations. But when you're talking about non-commercial vessels, as we call them, pleasure vessels, I don't think there's no limit. If you have a vessel big enough, and that once you're not chartering, because when you charter, then of course you charging people to live on board that vessel. Just like the cruise ships, they living on board. But if you're just transporting somebody, that's what you call a passenger. Now, if these people actually have people paying to live on, but then yes, of course, this would apply. And maybe they're talking to those, but I don't know about any pleasure vessel that does that. That's me. I know charter vessels do, but I don't know about no pleasure vessels that does that. Okay, so in addition to the head tax, they want to do anchorage fees. And we can break this down a little further. We still have time. The show about what? Almost half hour in. My goodness, half hour gone already. Yeah, okay. But we had to do that flamingo thing. That was very important. Even if that took an hour, I wouldn't have a problem with that. So they talk about anchorage fees. In other words, if you want to drop your hook anywhere in our country while you're visiting, well, you got to pay this up front. So whether you drop your hook or not, you still got to pay the anchorage fee. And we can drop an amount when we come back after the first break. And of course, in addition to all of that, they're gonna charge you if your ship, like some of those big ships like 80, 90 footers, 120 footers, they tow tenders behind them that really belongs to the ship. They're saying that if you're towing a tender, we want you to pay for that tender too, because in a lot of cases those tenders basically be serving as vessel when them ships getting the marina. The tender going all over the place and taking care of them. So yeah, they register that too. Not register it, but get clearance for that and pay for that, because we don't want you riding that up and down and like, you know, that belong to the boat. No, you pulling that ain't on the boat. And then they got this thing for people who come in on a weekly or monthly basis, like people who go right to Abaco, go right to Western area, go right to Freeport marinas like Running Mon and Port Lucaya, people who go to Bimini, Cat Key, those type of people who come often to do that. They developed this thing called a frequent digital cruising card, or FDCC. And they got fees for that too. And we can come back and talk about these amounts. Because in my opinion, some of them are very exorbitant. Some of them are treachery, what you call it? Not extortion. Well, extortion too. But what the next big word? Gouging. Price, they really gone crazy with these things, right? Because, and I can tell you why I think that when we get back to this, right? So the proposed establishment and regulation of anchorage zones. Remember we said that you have anchorage fees now, but last week we talked about the regulation to establish what they call anchorage zones throughout the Bahamas. And some people try to link that with, they trying to get these fellas to do the Moran deal again. Well, I don't know. My thing is, the fellas can't do the Moran deal if you get port areas and certain things, and the locals could provide the service. Because I think this really should be for locals to provide. Now, where there's no residences or areas where you have communities, yes, I can see you getting an entity that the government approved to place buoys and moorings, and I know how they can monitor them and manage them and collect fees. But yeah, I think you could do that, right? Because like everything else, electronic now, people could pay online while they're out there to use your mooring. So yeah, maybe that's what they're looking at when they talk about anchorage zones in certain parts of the Bahamas, right? Because in my opinion, they should have imposed this particular anchorage zone should have been imposed a long time ago. But shouldn't all busy harbors be deemed a no anchorage zones? In other words, Nassau Harbor is very busy. Port Lucaya, some areas like round marinas. My thing is, Even places like Stanley Key, quite busy. So you can't just go drop your hook anywhere as you feel. So I think you should have some areas where they say there's no, for example, that area of Montague Beach where we see all of those vessels now, most of them sailboats, but they pile up like that. One time ago we never seen no vessels there. How come all of a sudden all of them dropping a hook, dropping the anchor there? I don't have no problem with it. Well, I do have big problems with it. But the development is fine, but my thing is it needs to be organized. In my opinion, that area should be a no anchorage area. Why? It should be no anchorage simply because when those vessels anchor there and you or me or our children go in the water to swim by Montague Beach, and those people on those boats what we could almost swim to if we could swim, whenever they flush their toilets, it goes into the sea. They ain't got a holding tanks on those small boats. Well, 1 out of every 10 may have a holding tank. The majority of them do not have holding tanks. And they're right there flushing toilets while your child or you swimming. And that stuff just with the tide just coming up. They shouldn't be that close to where people swim, in my opinion. Right? So that whole area should be a no anchorage area simply because the beach is there where people want to swim. Right? And the same thing with Long Wharf. See all them sailboats will anchor around the turning basin, and people on Long Wharf Beach swimming. I know we got Bahamians go there every morning to take a dip and whatnot. And again, those vessels are there, and when they flush it into the water right where you're swimming. So certain areas, in my opinion, should be deemed no anchorage. You don't even put no more in there, because if you put a more in there and they use the more, the same thing happen. Right? They still get flush toilets. They still get wash dishes and put that flush when that go down the drain that way you think it get. They ain't got a holding tank. So it goes straight in the sea. So no. The whole harbor area should be no anchorage. And some entities may be allowed in the more commercial section, like where between the cruise ships and Porter's Key Dock, maybe, if you got any more space, they could put a couple buoys there. And the vessels, there's still no anchorage, so they'll have to actually tie onto a buoy. The mooring buoys they would have to use. And so that will solve that problem, right? For people anchoring in the harbor. No harbor should have no anchoring done. If you anchor, you could only anchor in far out areas where there's no communities. Because one thing with boats, I can tell you as a old captain, right? A lot of times you go to, say, the Ragged Island Keys. Ain't nobody live along those keys. But it's such a beautiful area. You can go and you can choose almost any beach, and it's a virgin beach because your footprints can be the only ones when you step in the sand. I don't have a problem with you anchoring off those beach. Because who could put more in there for you to anchor, to use the anchor? I know those areas are hardly ever really used. So yeah, you drop your hook, go do your thing, and I don't even think you should be charged for anchoring in the Bahamas. I don't think you should be charged for anchoring nowhere in the world. Because that's what boats are for. They got a hook to anchor. That's like a plane without a landing gear. You got your boat there. You should be able to anchor so long as you're not anchoring in an area that has a community where they have moorings. You're not anchoring in an area that is deemed no anchorage. And you as a mariner, you should be able to tell where your anchor could hold and all the rest of that for your boat. But I don't think you should have to pay for that. That's my view. Now, we go from there to the story we had in our last week batch that we didn't reach to. 25% loss of fly fishing guides. This is a big write-up in our dailies that the fishing guides in Andros and Crooked Island and Abaco and where else we got fishing guides, the Exomas, wherever we do a lot of bone fishing, right? Those guides were around from back in the day. They know about bone fishing. They grew up around bone fishing, and they know how to deal with these tourists who do fly fishing and bone fishing and all the rest of that. But according to the dailies, there's a report that these people are getting old and dying out, and they don't have a feeder system to replace them as they die out. Actually, my good friend Prescott Smith, I call him PI, we used to work on the Defense Force together. Prescott was saying a couple of years back in an article that we need to increase the number of bone fishing or fly fishing guides, because if you look at countries like Belize, they started out with about 20 something when we had must be over 80, and within 5 years they had over 1,000 fishing guides that take people out fly fishing, and they don't have flats like us, but they utilize their resources, train their young people, and they were able to feed them into the system, and it's a very viable operation they're running. Why couldn't we in the Bahamas do a similar thing? And we have 10 times more flats than Belize would have. So I think we should have 10 times more guides. If they get 1,000, we should have 10,000. Because this is an area, especially on the Family Islands, that our youth could be steered into to have ownership. So again, I say, as our guides are dying out, we need to implement a system where we are training people not only in the Family Islands, but even here in Nassau. We got a whole big maritime school. Why can't the government somehow, and when I say the government, I ain't talking about the administration. I talking about whoever's in the chair, whoever we the people put in there becomes the government, and that should be continuous. Why can't the government put a system in place, or cause a system to be put in place from the fisheries department or wherever, to have an ongoing training feeder system, so that we could not only replace these dying fishing guides, but we can expand the quantity of fishing guides we have available. And again, we could do it in other areas of tourism. And we know that Bahamians are generally friendly people. We could train our people to do this and make some big bucks and take over this thing and continue to really keep it going. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have the guides, how could we complain when the people doing their own guides because they can't find nobody? Yes, that's where we got to go with this. And our final topic tonight would be energy reform. You know, we got a few articles in the papers on our dailies over the past couple months, even years. Let's say that we are going to use LNG or liquefied natural gas as our source of energy for BPL. Because right now we're using a combination of bunker C or fuel oil, or you know that really cheap stuff, what those big massive engines that take anything to keep going, right? So that what I call cheap stuff, again, is not even as cheap as LNG. And that releases twice the amount of carbon as LNG. So the fact that we are converting from that fossil fuel, and right now if you've been paying attention to what's in the news, they had to strike up those diesel generators uptown by BC headquarters right there off Blue Hill Road in order to keep up with the demand that the summer heat causes when we get strike up. It's a combination of things, and we could be sensible about it. A combination of things. First of all, most of the students are not going to school, so they're home. And if they're not in school, you can't turn the air conditioner off and leave them in the hot house. You have to run AC during the daytime, and usually when they're at school, you don't have to do that. You can turn the AC off and everybody leave the house in the morning, and when you get back in the evening time, you turn it back on. But now you can't do that. So if all these households are now burning AC during the daytime when the AC got to work hard, and of course, that will cause the required amount of energy to increase like threefold. So the machinery at Clifton Pier will not be enough because it can't triple the amount of output. So of course you got to strike up the two big diesel generators. Diesel costs a lot more than fuel oil. So the country moving to a cheaper, more reliable, and cleaner supply is great news. But that great news is only half as good as if the country moved straight to solar. Because solar doesn't emit any carbon in the environment. And plus solar is even cheaper than LNG. Because we're talking about $200 million just to put a plant to convert that liquefied gas to vapor so that the machinery can use it. You know, there's $200 million if you actually put $200 million into solar panels that people can put on their roof and you sell it to them at a discounted rate because the government is incentivizing people to go to solar. So the government don't have to put in place a solar farm, use our roof and allow us to feed to the grid. And yes, change the transformers as necessary. We already have the grid. And if all us feeding to the grid, then everybody's going to win. But why would we move from fossil fuel, as far as fuel oil and diesel, to LNG? 40 years ago, 30 years ago, some of these countries in this region moved to LNG. That's a whole story. Now they change it from LNG to go to solar. Why don't we just go straight to solar? I mean, I think I know why, but I want 3268255. I don't want you all to call and tell me why. And then, very recently, I've been hearing about commercial hydropower. Hydrogen. That's when they split the water molecules or water atoms into two and create that hydrogen. And hydrogen is becoming very commercialized now and it's getting much cheaper based on some hot information I just got recently, right? As a matter of fact, we could compare it now to solar. But again, hydrogen do not emit carbon. So between hydrogen and solar, we don't have to worry about no LNG, but committing, we're still going to give you 50% of the amount of carbon you put in there now. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we move to our first break. When we come back, we're going to delve into discussion on these hot topics. We can go deeper, right? If you don't call, I can talk. If you call, I can try to respond. But I got plenty to say. We're talking maritime, people. You are listening to Maritime Matters. And on this show, we talk maritime. And as we move to our first break, we will return and engage tonight's maritime discussion. So listen up. You really don't want to touch that dial because this one could be hot, hot, hot. Thank you very much.
At Bahamas Maritime Connection Limited, we offer first-class maritime security services throughout the Bahamas and the wider Caribbean. As experts in maritime security, we specialize in production of ISPS assessments and plans, verification audits, certified familiarization training, and port security consultancy, just to name a few. Our services also include provision of a security force to maintain all required ISPS facility security compliance. For all your maritime security needs, visit us today in Nassau at our East Street South location or in Freeport in the Kipling Building. Call us at 392-3515 or follow us on all social media platforms. Bahamas Maritime Connection, your leader in maritime security. Let's help you make the connection. At One-on-One Pharmacy, our friendly staff is ready to serve you. Visit us today for all your prescription and over-the-counter needs at our East Street South or Charles Saunders Highway locations. We're open Monday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and from 9 to 4 on Sundays. In a rush? Send your refill scripts online at oneononepharmacy.com or ask about our convenient pickup service. One-on-One Pharmacy, providing personal health care with people at heart.
Love 97 FM, often imitated, never duplicated.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Maritime Matters. I'm your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our producer for the night is the sensational Mr. Craig Gibson. We are covering a litany of topics, maritime-related topics. And so we move on. The purpose of this show is to highlight persons that made significant contributions to maritime in the Bahamas and to sensitize Bahamians of opportunities in the maritime sector. We also cover current maritime issues from the domestic and international maritime feeds. Phone number to call us if you want to reach us during discussions is 326-8255. That's 326-8255. To hear a replay of this show or any of our previous shows, simply hit us up at any time on YouTube. We have a YouTube page called Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just like we say, I love you, Maritime Matters Bahamas. Just go to YouTube on your electronic device and type into the search box, Maritime Matters Bahamas. And all of our previous shows, you see a litany of shows, usually with the most recent ones first, so you can listen at any time, especially if you're traveling and you want to listen to the show because you didn't get a chance to hear it when it was going on. And that's how we roll. So, let's talk maritime. We started out in discussion on the revised boating fees for visiting vessels. And we said that came from our revised Customs Management Act that spells to what ships got to pay or vessels got to pay when they come to visit us. With the pleasure yachts, what they got to pay, with the charter yachts, and all the rest of that good stuff. And as we were saying, the cruising permit for 12 months, if your vessel is under 34 feet, and most of them, especially the little ones going to Bimini and West End and the Abacos, many of them, I think the majority of them is less than 34 feet. So if your vessel is less than 34 feet, you used to pay $300, and that was only for 3 months. That would have been $1,200 for the year, right? If you come. But we don't expect you to come. So we say, okay, when you get this permit, it's good for a year. And give us $500. $500 for you and your family or whatnot. You got to remember now, I personally, I think that's a bit of exorbitant. I think $300 was a lot, and I think we should keep it there for a year. Reason being, in most cases, these vessels don't come very often. Some of them come very, very often. But I think the larger amount of them, They may come when they take a break for the summer. If Christmas may be a little rough. So when they just want to get away, they get their boat, their family, they get their family in the boat, and they come to the Bahamas and spend a couple of weeks. So if they come into the Bahamas to visit us, why should we want to charge them so much money for coming here? Because, I mean, if you ask me, what is this $300 fee for? Just because you come to visit us and we open the tours, we spend millions of dollars trying to get tourists to come here? I don't have no problem with you paying the $300, but you can move that to $500 a year. As a matter of fact, I don't think you should have no time on this. You shouldn't have $500 a year. I think you should keep it at $300, and that's $300 every time you come to this country. Because once you leave and you come back, that's another $300. So if you come once a year, then you only got to spend $300. If you come 3 times a year, well, that's $900 instead of $500. So in any way, we could win, right? But we don't want to chase nobody away. We don't want the one that comes once a year to say, man, that's too much money, $500 just to go and visit them. And on top of that, you got some other fees according to what's going on. So in my view, I really don't think this is a good idea to move it, first of all, to annually. I think it should be every time you come here, this what you. It's just like you going on a plane to go to another country. The fees in your ticket is every time you visit that country. The fees in your ticket ain't good for a year, and if you go to Miami 3 months later, you done pay that fee for the year, so you could go to Miami every month. No, don't work like that. So why are you trying to do that with boats? Why are we trying to do this with boats? These people come in to visit. When they come to enter Customs and Immigration, make them pay that fee per visit. And it don't have to be exorbitant. Now, those who come over and over, well, they'll pay over and over and over again. Because if they go in, if we go to Miami 10 times a year, we pay those taxes 10 times a year. So why should it be different? If an American come to the Bahamas, they get pay the same taxes 10 times a year if they come by plane. So why if they come by boat, you ain't gonna let them pay 10 times a year? You want them to pay once for the whole year. Something gotta be wrong with that picture. Who be advising our government on these things? I wish that person call and try and explain this to me. Because I don't think this is a good idea. And we all know that there was a bunch of backlash on this. And sometimes we say, oh, they can kick up fuss initially, but they can pay anyhow. But do we want to gouge on these people? We spending millions of dollars to get people in our country, you know. Why we can try to gouge you when you come in? Because once they reach here, most of them go to restaurants. Most of them catch taxis. Most of them pay marina fees. Most of them buying ice all the time. They going and buying liquor. They got to go to the food stores to buy food to cook on board when they get into the restaurant. And I can tell you, and places like Staniel Key, Bryland, San Salvador, excuse me, places where they don't really have all the luxuries that they would have in Nassau and Freeport. Those places depend on these boats. They contribute a lot to those local economies. So why would we want to, in any form, try to make it more difficult for them to come here and feel easy about it? You got some people who got money, but they don't like to feel like you're taking advantage of them. You see, the fact that the Bahamas is right on the doorstep of Florida, it's hard for them to go somewhere else in a little boat. Well, Cuba's the next closest place, eh? So to go to Domrep or Dominican Republic, because you know they ain't got Haiti with the turmoil going on right now in Haiti. So to go to Domrep or Puerto Rico, which is far, or Turks and Caicos, you gotta go through us. That's what 500 miles. These little boats ain't really into doing 500 miles to get to some place where they could take their family for a couple of weeks. And when they get there, they will stop to this port, stop to that port, drop anchor here if they want to. These people just want to get away from the States. And why the set who coming by plane, you ain't charging them that kind of money. Why you could charge the boats more than you could charge the set who coming by plane? I don't understand that. I don't think our country should be using foreigners as an opportunity to make up a lot for our treasury. Well, you use them where you use them, where everybody else is using them. But I don't think we should overcharge for simple things like that. Let's continue to be friendly. Let's continue. We're spending millions of dollars to get people here. Let's continue to lure them in. Because when they get here, they can spend money. I say all of them can spend money, but some of them spend more money than others. But some of them may not be able to afford to spend much money. All these people ain't got to have money because you have a boat domain, you have plenty of money. If I have, okay, let's say me and my dog, right? And my boy, the next Captain Brain. All us is good navigators. We know the waters. Let's say we decide we can stretch our money and buy a yacht. 45-foot yacht. Nothing big. And every summer, because we near in retirement now. He might be a little younger than me, but that boy ready to retire, right? Boy, I know me and me will be calling. But let's say he and I decide we in retirement, and every year we're going to take our family on a 45, 50-foot yacht to the Eastern Caribbean. And of course, we probably can start. We won't go to Puerto Rico and them. Now, they too big, right? Domrep, we may go to one port in Domrep, Port of Playa, one of them on the north coast, right? And when we go there, they tell us, oh, you got to pay us, let me see, from 34 to 100 for $1,000. You got to pay us $1,000 because your yacht is over 34 feet. They're less than 100. Because if they're over 100, you can pay $3,000. This just for that one entry now, once a year. And then we say, well, okay, if you say so, we won't pay that. But if you say we get paid, we get paid. And then we leave Domrep a couple days later. And we go to Montserrat. And then we go to Antigua. And then St. Kitts. And then St. Vincent. And then Barbados. And then Trinidad. Because we checking them all out. And every time we go to one of them, they tell us $1,000. Do you, my brothers and sisters of the Bahamas, feel like that should be the case? We set out in a boat that either we decide to lease or charter for a couple of weeks, or we decide we can buy a boat. Or one us, well, he got plenty of money, so he can buy a yacht, right? And I help him with the fuel. And we just decide we could do that trip to the Eastern Caribbean every year on his yacht. Sometimes we go to regattas, and it costs us no money because we're in the Bahamas. But every time we go to a country, it costs us $1,000 to enter. I don't think that's fair. But that's what we doing to the Americans. We say, you come here and on entry, if your boat is bigger than 34 feet, pay us $1,000. That's just to enter our country. That doesn't sound like we gouging them. That doesn't sound like we being unfair to them. And we spending millions out there asking them to come here. Man, something wrong with that picture. Anyway, that is what's going on. And God help you if your boat over 100 feet. Well, only people with big money can have yachts over 100 feet, right? But even though you get big money, and people with big money want to know you taking advantage of them. I wouldn't want to know you taking advantage of me if I get big money. You could charge me $3,000 every year I come here. Just for coming to your country and bringing people and using your restaurants and all the rest of that. I talking about pleasure boats. And you have people who have their own boat and they ain't chartering their boat because they don't want nobody putting up in their bed. So they keep their boat just for them. And they come here, but every year, they got to spend $3,000 just to be able to be in our waters. I smell a fish. Something can't be. I don't know who advising the government on these rates. We got a caller. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Hello. Caller, you on Maritime Matters. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Top shape and getting better, my friend. What's happening?
If you stop from letting out the bills in the water, our people swimming in the bills and getting sick, getting cancer, getting all these things, I mean, unknown number of things for years and top of years. I think it's high time they start paying.
Well, I agree with you.
Well, it is nothing but the truth, my brother. I see the big cruise ship is open up that big hole in the back of the ship and turn loose. And I mean, especially when they had the pandemic down there, they had 1 million ships sitting right off the shore, and all they was doing was just letting loose stuff, and all our Bahamians was getting sick.
Well, those ships were not near NASA.
And yes, they were. They were all over the place. I could have seen them go all over the place, man.
No, that's not true. That's not true. Those ships were off Stirrup Key, between Stirrup Key and North Rock.
All over. Yes, I could have seen them.
Oh, you mean on the eastern side of Eleuthera?
Oh, man, Mr. Bain, listen to me carefully. These fellas that must be letting loose the most things in these Bahamian waters. Somebody got to pay, because right now the coral reef is suffering and everything is going bad with some type of disease that's going on, bro. They're bleaching us.
You talking about when they had the pandemic, or you talking about now?
All the time, from the beginning of the time, bro. From the time
but those cruise
getting these boats and coming to say.
No, but those cruise ships don't anchor.
They just let it on the water too.
We talking about cruise ships, or we talking about other boats?
We talking about all the boats, all.
Man, you can't put cruise ships don't anchor. That's the first thing.
See, and guess what? We specify with how we can charge certain ones. You know what I mean? And in America, they don't have a break. They don't give us a break. So we ain't gonna give them a break. And I mean, they robbing us and then telling us all kind of foolishness. And I mean, about when we come shopping over there, and this and that. But we gotta get our money back, because we deal billions and billions of dollars in the United States of America.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question. If you go home now to Eleuthera for a while, and your cousin get one yacht, because your cousin, in the back in the day, he find some square groupers, so now he could buy a yacht. He get one yacht. And you and one or two of your little family go, and you all go to the Eastern Caribbean, and every time you all go to a different country, they tell you all to enter here, you got to pay us $1,000. You will feel good with that?
Well, we'll ask them if it's to stay or just to pass through.
Just to pass through, that's what I'm saying. It's $1,000 just to clear.
Well, then I'll hop on a plane. And go down there and spend my vacation.
No, but I am telling you the reality. What happening to people who come in on boat?
Well, if they want to.
But that don't mean that's. Yeah, but that don't mean that's right for them to charge all the money. I don't mind you charging them, because you was charging them all along. They had no problem with the $300. But why you now want to charge them $1,000 just for them, just to enter? Now this ain't nothing to do with what they could pay.
Ben, do you recognize what's going on here?
I recognize what's going on. That's why I called it out. That's why I called it out.
People here diving our shores.
No. Those people we can deal with.
They're teams, bro.
Yeah, but
so you must get it from them somewhere.
No, you can get it from them.
Now we are vacuum packing their fish and all the things they take from these Bahama waters, coming on shore, stealing our bushes, stealing everything we got.
Yeah, but you allowing it?
That we need to put it on them.
No, you allowing it? No, but you don't paint everybody with a broad brush, because some people can contribute. No, you don't have to paint everybody with a broad brush. If you are a destination for trying to attract tourists, how could you do that?
Well, the road the hell was paved with good intentions too.
Yeah, but we need to be careful what we do with the people we try to attract.
You listen at me carefully.
You can't be trying to track them on one hand, but you go seeing them on the next hand. How you can do that?
Let me say something to you. You know how America was built? America was built on people our strength.
I don't care how America or Bahamas is built.
Rising right now. Well, let them suffer. They got to suffer.
No, who they?
Do you know? Just being radical today.
Do you know that 80% of our tourists are Americans?
Well, guess what?
Do you know that?
America, most of our black people were slaves too that came from America.
Yeah, but do you know that 80% of our tourists, suppose America decide we don't want no more tourists go to the Bahamas, you know we finished, right?
America can't do that.
Man, why can't they?
Because the person in America who try to do that, I mean, they'll be telling their own people who got places down here.
My brother,
they don't want to come here.
I am talking about the visitors. I ain't talking about the residents.
Got places down there. The richest Americans got places down here.
Yeah, but they're residents. No, but they're residents. I talking about the visitors. The cruise ship.
They're residents and visitors.
Anyway, so you feel.
You know what I mean?
So you feel like.
For 6 or 8 kids in Lexuma. Western got about 10. Western House got this. Johnny Depp got this. The next Western. Oh, boy, look here. Man,
yeah, but all of them people you talk about have residency. They ain't no visitors.
Well, I don't care. Let them pay.
Well, let them pay for what they have. They paying. They pay the beggar, eh?
Well, let's enjoy what
they paying all the time. But what I'm saying is you don't.
You later, man. You ain't about it, I can see you later.
Thanks for the call, my brother. King Arthur, straight out of 8 Mile Rock. Boy, that's my boy. Yeah, he seemed to have a different view from me. I mean, you know, it's I'll say kind of sad in a way, but in many ways. We have a lot of Bahamians who just feel they forget where our bread is buttered, you know. They don't, well, I don't say they don't realize, but they seem not to be aware that we need these tourists. And they seem to forget, you see, maybe COVID was in there long enough. And we still had money, and we was able to get over that hurdle for that 1 year where we had no cruise ships coming here, and our money we had hold us on. And when the tourists come back, we was able to link the chain and keep going. But I want you to know, because I did Bahamas, and I really wish everybody could do Bahamas, to realize where most of our money in this country come from. We are so blessed because of our geographical location to have, I don't want you to think the Bahamas have this 9 million tourists a year because we pretty in the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, you know. Mind you, we pretty, don't get me wrong. You know, country in the world pretty is us. But our geographical proximity puts us smack, and I want you to know most of those tourists are cruise ship passengers, right? We got the biggest cruise ship passenger port in the world outside of the 3 major home porting ports in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or Port Everglades, and Port Canaveral, right? The minute they leave their port, and they got like most of the cruise ships in the world, the minute they leave their port, they're looking at the Bahamas. So we are very fortunate in that regard. But we're not talking about the cruise ships right now. We're talking about those many yachts that go to the family islands. Many of them come to Nassau and Freeport, don't get me wrong. But the family islands rely on those vessels, especially the marinas in the family islands and the restaurants in the family islands. And certain family islands, these yachtsmen, they know the people because they've been there so many times and they contribute so heavily. People know them by name. And when we make these decisions to just broad brush swipe all mariners to say, we believe you could thief some of our fish so we can overcharge you. Or we overcharging you for the fella who over there doing skullduggery. Oh man, that ain't fair, man. And you talking about you want the tourists to come to us? Anyway, some people have their different point of view. My point of view is I think we need to revise this thing and we need to make sure we're not gouging these people, because based on the article they're saying that we're charging twice as much as any other port in this region for people to come and visit us. How could we do that? Anyway, in addition to that boating fee, if they want to fish while they're here, they got to pay an additional $100. And then now this fishing thing, I got a big problem with that. Because if you're going to get a permit to fish while you're here, see, my thing is I ain't got a problem with you visiting and cruising the waters. But now if you want fish, especially if you want fish to the extent where you're getting plenty fish, $100 is a joke. Even our commercial fishermen, I think, pay more than that to get a fishing license. I think, first of all, I don't think you should be allowed to fish. Right? You are not allowed to fish. If you want fish, you come to Montague Ramp like us and buy fish. If you want fish, you go to a fancy restaurant and point out your fish you want them to cook and tell them that's the one I want. You ain't come to our country to fish. I don't know why our government giving a permit for visitors to be able to go and fish to their heart's content. So I don't agree with the fishing permit fees, the $100, and if you're over 34 feet, you pay $300 for a year. I don't believe in that. I don't think they should be allowed to fish. Now, I know when I was on Defense Force, they had the Customs Management Act say you could fish and you could get up to, I think they say 10 pounds of fish for each person on the ship, which is plenty fish at any one time, right? So you can get, if you get 5 people on the boat, you can have in your freezers up to 50 pounds of fish. Anything over fish 50, then you're breaking the law. And I just using 10 as a number. It could have been a little more, it could have been a little less, right? I think it was a little more, but in my opinion, I don't think you need more than like 5 pounds a person on a ship. Because you could catch fish every day. But man, why you come and fill up your freezer and go back, sell the fish, come back again, and every time you come over here, you paying for your trip, plus you're making a profit. You know, that ain't helping us. You can't too much fish. That's the way I see it, right? What happened? Y'all ain't got no opinion on this? Ain't nobody from fisheries, or ain't nobody who own no commercial fishing boat, or nobody working the marinas who think something wrong with this, or think I wrong about the approach I taken? And y'all call 326-8255. What happened? I could talk all day, but I want to hear what y'all have to say too. You only got 15 minutes left. Then it goes on to say we'll have head tax if you carry more than 3 passengers. My question is, what is deemed a passenger? You see, in the world that I was living in with safety and international ships and all the rest of that, even the mail boats and whatnot, a passenger is somebody who paying for you to take them from one place to the next. Or somebody who paying you to carry them out for a week, giving them a room, all the rest of that. Like a cruise ship. Right? So, when these private boats or these pleasure boats come in here, 90% of them would not be charging anybody. We got a caller.
Hey.
Caller, you on the line?
Hey, listen, Ben, you know something else too, bro?
Yeah, man.
What it really is that they had like a fella who was working in the American Embassy got caught fishing commercially down there off down there in the south.
Of course, so we got to deal with them.
And he was ordered to pay plenty money, and the boat was confiscated.
But that's what we got to do.
The guy was supposed to be an American ambassador. So, you mean the innocent must suffer for the guilty when they come down to times like that?
No, see, I'm glad you called and said that, because, see, we need to have our enforcement. Because we're not enforcing our laws, don't mean we must plaster everybody, say, pay me more money because we're enforcing our laws. That don't make no sense.
Okay, good.
We need to enforce our laws.
The fishery officer up in
Man, tell him call, man. Tell him call me.
The other day.
Tell the fishery officer.
He found these guys who going out every day. And when they come in, they got hundreds of pounds of fish vacuum packed and getting ready to go away to the States.
So why we locking? Why?
You see, let me tell you something.
Yeah, but King Adam, why we allowing it?
I will say something. In order for you to get around it, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, you can let your boat stay in the Bahamas and you fly in and out and just use your boat while you're here.
So we ain't got nobody.
There's many ways of doing this thing. You ain't got to pay $100 or $1,000 every time. Leave your boat here and let somebody take your head. Let someone like me take care of it, or you take care of it, and I can go and come and if I feel like I can live the life too.
My brother.
Oh, see you later.
If 10%, okay. King Hatter, if 10% of Bahamians, of Americans that visit here by boat, by pleasure boat, are breaking our rules and violating our fisheries and all the rest of that, that don't mean the other 90% who doing things properly, you need to overcharge them to say, oh, that 10% cost this? No, man, you don't do this like that. You want these people to come to your country. And like I said, these people have relationships with some people in your family islands because they go and buy the box. They come, they spend money because they can afford it. I don't want you to think all of these people. Now, some of them, they living on shoestring budget. You go in that boat, they gotta cook. Every day they want to throw their line up and catch something fresh. They ain't trying to stock. They ain't got no freezer to even put fish in. Right? Every now and then they'll come ashore and they'll go in the restaurant or they go in the food store and they buy. Because obviously they got to keep, they ain't got no big space on it. These little boats. They got to continue to buy fresh food. They want perishables. So they spending money as they move along. So why would you gouge these people because the other set doing foolishness that you ain't correcting because you don't have your enforcement in place? I don't think that's fair, man. I don't think that's fair. We need to get this right. Right? So the fishing permit, and then we talk about the head tax, and we was talking about passengers. Passengers is not your neighbors and your friends. You all decide you all going to do a week in the Bahamas. Ain't none of them paying you to take them nowhere. All of them have contributed to the gas and the this and the that. But they're not passengers. Now, when it comes to head tax, as far as I'm concerned, if you're entering this country, whether by a commercial plane, whether by a cruise ship, whether by your own private boat, I think you should pay that head tax. Not only any passenger over 3, or whether it's a passenger or your children, everybody should pay it. And the head tax should be the same no matter how you're entering this country. That's my view. And I may be dead wrong, I don't know. But we got people in tourism who should know about that, people in customs who should know about that, and you all sitting there and ain't nobody want to call and clarify nothing. So what you want me to take? I wish somebody could clear that up for me. Do we charge head tax? Are these additional costs in addition to the regular head tax we charge? Excuse me, are these additional head tax? Or is this, we don't really charge head tax for the first 3 or 4 people? Because that ain't making no sense to me. Because I have no problem with the head tax, you know. And how much they said the head tax was? You see, I write down somewhere. Head tax was head tax. Man, I even know where I put that. I put that somewhere on here. But it ain't that much. I must say the head tax was not very much when it come to the people they considered passengers, right? And I can't see the $30 a head. That's what it was. I see it. Boy, I was there scribbling things down, right, as I was doing my research stuff. So they say anybody over 3 passengers will pay $30 per head. Now, I don't know what the head tax is with the cruise ship people and all that. I think it's around that, eh? So I think that $30 should be for everybody every time they enter in the country. So maybe that's in addition to the regular head tax when people doing their entry. Because when you enter in, I think you get to pay your head tax no matter how you enter the country. I think. If I'm wrong, please. Somebody call 326-8255. Please let us know. Anchorage fees. How much time we get left? My goodness, we down to 10 minutes? Okay. Anchorage fees. I don't know why, if I have a boat and I go around the Caribbean in my own boat and I stop to a deserted area and I want to drop my hook and maybe catch a fish or whatever I want to do, I got to pay to drop my own hook. You ain't put nothing in place for me, you know. Why I got to pay for anchoring. Boats are designed to anchor. And they say if the boat is under 34 feet, it's $200 a year. If the boat is between 34 feet and 100, and now this is in addition to those other fees, right? If the boat is over 34, less than 100, $350 a year. And if you get one of them big buggers over 100 feet, give us $1,500 every time you come to class, or every year. Boy, just to be able to anchor? And I anchor in my own boat? I ain't no pilot come and anchor my boat? I don't know. I don't think that sound too right to me. I think once you got your laws in place to say these are the no anchorage areas, anywhere else you anchor, you got to use a buoy. Now the areas we deem for anchoring, or the ones we didn't say are no anchorage, you use your own discretion like all seafarers know how to do, and you anchor your own boat. That on you. That's free. Because I think that if I can pay you to anchor, and my anchor drag and my boat get damaged, I can say you cost that. Because I had to pay you and the anchor's supposed to hold. All right, that's ridiculous. I take that back. No, that don't make no sense, right? So, in addition to the anchorage fees, if you tow in a boat that you use for your little run around and stuff, which is, we call it tender. And some of these tenders are like another boat, right? Because some of them is 30 and 40 foot long if you get a big yacht. And when you tow in that tender, you pay as though that's a boat for the size that fall under. And all that should go without saying, right? But we just make sure you know. Don't tell us, oh, that's a tender that belongs to my boat. That tender that belongs to your boat? Yeah, but that big. Pay for that too. And you should have money to pay for that if you got a yacht that size. That's my view. So I can't hit I'm gubby for that, right? I think that one is in order. Boy, but the rest of these, we got to look at them again. We need to look at them again. We're a tourist destination. We really should be trying to encourage people to come here and not discourage them from coming in. That's my view. And I see some of the people around the islands and in the marinas, they think the same thing. Now, I don't always agree with them. Sometimes this go the wrong way. They're looking out for their own money, and they ain't one of these people who come in to chatter and use our territory to make money. Pay. No, when it comes to chattering, I think we should charge them very heavy. I get no problems with you charging them for chattering. But now when these people come for pleasure, they ain't making no money, they're just spending money straight through. No, man, we gotta go light on them, man. Come on, we want them here. Hey, baby, at least we getting the head tax in the food store and the restaurant money. You can't also want tax them just for coming here. And you saying you want tourists to come here. Okay, so we said we can have 5 minutes left. My Lord. We talk about the fishing guides. We talk about the anchoring. But ladies and gentlemen, by the way, we got 5 minutes left, but you're listening to Maritime Matters. On this show, we talk maritime. I am your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our producer tonight, the great Mr. Craig Gibson. We are Love 97 FM, coming to you live. Today is the 1st of July, 2025. And we were talking about the revised boating fees. So, the Customs Management Act 2025 have some changes where we gone up on the tax for cruising permit, fishing permit, head tax, anchorage fees, additional if you got a tender, and we got this thing called Frequent Digital Cruising Card, FDDC. Now, FDCC, and this thing is good for 2 years. That means those people who they always in Bimini, between Bimini and Florida, between West End, Abaco, Cat Key, along that strip where they just cross the pond and they're here, right? They come probably twice a month. We saying, okay, since you coming so often, you get this card. It's good for 2 years. And how much they pay for that one? I think it over here. Oh, gee. That one is easy. If you're under 50 foot, you pay us $1,500. That's $750 per year. I ain't bad, right? Because you're coming in and out all the time. But I still think if you coming in and out, you spending money, I ain't sure. We just gotta watch how you fish. Because some of y'all like teeth plenty fish and can't back, right? 50 to 100 feet, you pay $2,500 over 2 years. So again, that's some $1,250 a year. And the big fellas over 100 will pay $8,000 or $4,000 a year. But you get this card that is digital, and once you flash that, you should be good to go if it's valid and all the rest of that, right? That's how they roll them with that. And since we're down to seconds or minutes, okay, 3 minutes left. My producer tell me, give me one more. I know, we ain't want to push him too hard, right? We talk about energy reform, boy. We have to take up the whole show next week to deal with this energy reform. Because I like how our current government keeps saying, oh, we can make energy cheaper, more reliable, and cleaner. Yes, and I agree, but we ain't want that one. We want the one that's even cheaper than that, far more reliable than that, and way cleaner than that, which is solar. And we want you to incentivize solar so all of us can have solar panels on our roof. We want you to make the grid a solar grid or solar friendly. Mind you, it could take solar now, but we want it to be able to really take solar. So we could even feed to the grid. Because we got a lot of Bahamians now who off the grid. And they're doing quite fine. Because what it cost them over the years, in 5 years' time, because you know these things, most of them are guaranteed for 10 plus years. But in 5 years, you don't pay for that. Now you're getting energy free. Now you tell me you could do that on your own and BPL can't help you to do that? Something might be wrong with that picture. We got plenty sun. We got sun year round. You nobody call on that? Boy, you all ain't feel like calling tonight. Nah, I ain't gonna lie. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our show for tonight. You have been listening to Maritime Matters. I'm your host, Captain Glenn Bain. Our lovely producer for the night is Mr. Sensational, Mr. Craig Gibson himself. I want to say good night to my anime. Anime, you still listening? My anime tell me, like, oh, I started to listen, but you know, I can listen to that tomorrow. She know I can send her the clip, so she can listen to it tomorrow. Anime, you know I love you. You're my girl. Keep things going. We just hope that foot hurry up, you know, heal up so you don't have them issues you having with that foot. And our sponsors, of course, Bahamas Maritime Connection, along with, for Nassau, we have 101 Pharmacy, and for Freeport, we have Island Care Pharmacy. Those are the sponsors that keep the show ticking, talking. And if you want to sponsor us, please call us and let us know, because we'll take sponsors from anywhere. We will work it out with you, and you can join the pack. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I say thank you to all my callers. I had about 3 or 4 callers, and they were smack on, right? We ain't always agree, but we agree to disagree, and their views be valid. I think my views be valid. Since y'all ain't calling in, that means y'all ain't get no view, right? So with that, I say, as always, my friends, Maritime Matters, tick, 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 out.
Sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, then I'll watch them